Hey guys, welcome back to Shop 209. I'm John. This is Project FrankenNova, and it is time to put this junk together. Now, thanks for watching all my previous videos. If you're new here, subscribe, hit the like button on this video, leave me a comment. I try to answer everyone's comments. At least for now, I can keep up, so it's not too bad. We're going to put the motor transmission in it soon. First thing I got to do though is I got to wire it, and I got to clean up my firewall because it looks like crap. Okay, so we're going to put this Speedway Motors 12 circuit mini fuse harness in here. That's the 12 circuits it does. Pretty much all your basic stuff. And it comes with new headlight pigtails. It comes with your GM ignition switch on the column pigtail or connectors. Some of them are pre-terminated, like the ones for the ignition switch, and that's probably the dimmer switch or something like that. Your flashers are done. So yeah, pretty good looking harness. The wires are all marked really well. It comes with good instructions, I think. So I'm going to put a link in the description of the video to this kit if you want to get one of these. This will not fit the factory style bulkhead connector or any of that. So this is a universal street rod style harness. Craig put one just like this in his Dart that we dynoed, and was really happy with it. So I picked one up, and we're going to put one in FrankenNova. So I've got my steering column hole, I've got my master cylinder hole, I've got speedometer holes, I've got holes all over the place. Blower motor, heater core, the original air conditioning wire hole. I'm going to take the windshield wiper box off. It's a box. It's a windshield wiper motor, that's what they call them. I'm going to take the windshield wiper stuff off, and I'm going to seal up everything I'm not using. So I've got to lay the wiring harness out, see where everything's going to come through, and then I can figure out what to seal up. I don't want to mutilate my firewall. I want to keep it original, because if I decide to go back and put something original back on there, I don't have any issues. Now, I'm going to build some kind of plate here, I think, and with a round hole in it so I can put a round grommet, because that's much easier to do, and come out here and feed my headlight section with all my turn signals and stuff like that, because this will be a street car. And then I'm going to take my engine harness, and I might come through here with the engine harness. I've got to lay the harness out. What you want to do on one of these is lay it out, figure out where everything's going to go, make sure it's going to reach before you run into trouble trying to do it once you got half of it installed. Okay, so this one is welded on. I don't think I'm going to grind it off yet. I might not. The only thing really left on here is the speedometer or accelerator pedal bracket. I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to mess with it. And the emergency brake cable. Now, well, I'm going to have to do something with this, but it's already sealed, so I might leave it alone. The easiest way to get this cable out is with a grenade. Okay, I'm kidding, but not by much. This thing is a pain in the butt. It's got fingers on the other side. You can take, so I've taken a 7/16 wrench, hammered it down over it, they all squeeze together and they pop out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's a pain in the butt. I'm going to try to get it out, and you know, without having to get out a torch or a hammer or a wrecking ball. All right, I got this stupid booger out. Now, you can see here what I mean. It's got these little fingers that spread out and lock itself in, and sometimes you can take a box end wrench, slide over it, hammer it down to where it squeezes all of them. You got to find a metric one or something pretty tight. I wasn't able to do it with this one. I had to squeeze some of these things in, kind of wiggle it around, and then beat it to death with a hammer. So yeah, I'm pissed off now. Next. Okay, so inside the car, this one coil right here of wire has all of your engine, headlight, turn signals, all that stuff. So I'm going to separate it into two. I'm going to figure out everything that needs to go on the other side to the engine, and then everything that needs to go to the headlight harness. Pull it through two holes. I'm going to pull one through the original bulkhead connector hole and the other through the AC hole. I don't want to skin the wire up, so I'm going to pull it through there kind of careful like. See if everything will reach and then I'll figure out how to put grommets on each one of those so that that wire will go through there and be sealed up, and then I can seal up everything else I don't need. I also have to figure out a good place to mount my fuse box to where it's accessible, unlike the factory fuse box. I'm not sure if you can tell, but I've got all that stuff separated into one harness and all that separated into another one. I went way back because some of the wires stopped. They're not all the same length. So this is my engine harness, which has got my oil sending unit, all that stuff in there. This is my headlights and horn and my fan relay, because it'll probably be on the core support. So all this. So I'm going to take this one first, start with the end of it, and feed it through the original bulkhead connector hole, pull it all up there, and then I'm going to feed the engine and stuff through and make sure everything's going to reach where I want it to go. Now ideally you would want the core support on the car, but I know where the core support's going to be. All of these wires, depending on where I put my fuse block's over almost in the middle of the car, so I've got plenty of slack. So all of these wires will basically reach the core support. So I should be able to get them on the curvature of the inner fender without too much drama, across my core support, and to any light or anything else that's going to be on the core support. So these wires are plenty long, come through that hole without any drama. Now I'm going to poke my engine harness through and make sure all that will reach where we need to reach it. Okay. And I've still got plenty of slack on the inside. My oil sending unit is the shortest one there. Well, my fuse box is way back in the middle of the car. So like I said, I've got plenty of room. My oil sending unit will be somewhere around here, so that's fine. I need to get a little bit out there, but not a big deal. And then everything else is going to reach. I'll probably put a bracket on the inner fender over here for my starter solenoid. So I want to make sure that I can come over this way and reach that, and I'm pretty sure I can. So let's see what this is. That is my tap readout. I'll mount my MSD box over here, so that won't be a problem. Okay, I got my firewall cleaned up and painted. It's a little glossier than I thought it was going to be. I think I might have used a satin color on the frame, and that's a semi-gloss, but whatever, it's fine. So, blocking off my hole was what I did. I made a block off plate, and then I used riv nuts, which are like the coolest thing ever. And then it doesn't take 5 quarter-20 bolts to hold something like this in, but I wanted it to not rattle anything, and I used all the factory holes that were already there. This one I had to drill out a hair bigger. Everything else worked. So this way I can remove it. I don't mess up anything. Now sure, you can still see this out there, but I'm going to paint this and then bolt it in. So I also made a small one for there that's got a hole in it for the, or will have a hole in it for the grommet, and then a couple other things. So let's put those on. Okay, so I painted my block off plate, and I made this to go behind there, and it'll cover up all these holes. It uses these holes for the bolts, and it'll go behind there. I could just as easily have made it to where it went the other way, but you know, it'll protrude and stick out here, so I want it to be even, so I'll put it on the inside. I think it'll still look okay. Now let's see if we can mount it. Without scratching it up. Okay, I got this piece mounted. Now, that hole, I couldn't get a piece on the inside of it and really get it mounted up. There's not much of a thing there. Most of this will be behind the fender and hinge and inner fender and all that stuff, so it's not going to show. And probably could have just painted it black, but you know what? I'm having fun, who cares? All right, and this piece is going to block off where the original wiring harness came out. And just going to hold it on with 2 screws. They're going to screw through the original holes. So if I ever decide to put a regular wiring harness back in it, I haven't messed up too bad. Make sure it's tight where it won't rattle. And I'm going to use my speedometer hole. I'm just going to put a grommet in that, and I'll use that for my wiring harness to come out and go over to the headlights. I think that hole is big enough to where I can get a grommet in there and still get everything sealed up and just leave that covered off without having to put a hole in a grommet there. Okay, for the front fuel line, I just picked up a reproduction factory line. I'll put a link in the description to most of this stuff. This will probably be in there. And it follows the same contours. You just put it in between the body and the subframe, and then you take your factory mounts and bolt it down. Okay, with that out of the way, I can go ahead and mount my engine mounts. This is a 74. I'm putting 69 to 72 or 68 to 72 style mounts on it. The 74s have a clamshell type mount, and those are wider, and your driver's side header will hit if you're using big tube headers like I'm using. So we're going to put the frame stands on there, and then we can stab the engine and transmission in. Now, if you're converting your 73 or 74 later style mounts to the earlier style mounts, this is going to be a problem because the later style mounts have these little wings welded to the subframe. So what I did was I tapped it really, really lightly with this hammer about 700 or 800 times and clearanced them out of the way, and now they'll just clear, and hopefully they won't be in the way. Okay, so putting these nuts on the back is really difficult. Just because your only access is here and you got one hole underneath. Not that easy to do. So a trick I like to do is put a piece of tape on a box inner inch. Then I can set my nut in there, hold it up in there like that, spin the outside till it catches and it tightens on up, then I pull my wrench off. Just wrenches it long enough. Okay, same concept, longer wrench, and like I said, the tape will hold it so it's not going anywhere. Done. Okay, we are finally ready to put the engine and transmission in FrankenNova. Now, I went ahead and put the fuel line on the frame rail so I wouldn't have to fight with that once the engine was in, because it's pretty much impossible. It's not, but it's easier this way. And then also went ahead and put my brake line in that goes across the cross member that goes from side to side. I think that's all that I'm really missing. My motor mounts or my frame stands are tight, and good to go there. Okay, I got my little adjustable thing here, thanks to my buddy Joe. When people borrow your engine hoist and bring it back with a tilt jig, that's pretty cool. So this is a Scat SFI 168 tooth flywheel. It doesn't fit. I've got Loctite on my bolts. I'm using new Mr. Gasket flex plate bolts. So now we're just going to tap it in. Just tap it in, happy. And you can see it's just the paint, the coating they put on there is what was keeping it. Okay, the converter I'm using is an FTI. It is a 3800 to 4000 stall. And I'm gonna go ahead and get it on. See if I can get the transmission bolted up to the motor. Now, I always get a little bit of transmission fluid and rub around the seal, the front seal. Especially since this transmission's been sitting a while. I already had to take it apart this morning when I was going to put this thing in first time, and had to clean some stuff out of it because it had some dirt in it. Not much, just a little bit. I was able to get a whole quart of fluid in this thing, and now I'm gonna get it put up on here. Now, putting the converter in, you have to get it right, because if you don't, you're gonna trash the transmission as soon as you crank it up. It's got to click in there all the way, and the key to doing that is to spin it and know that it's in there right. And a performance converter will be a lot tighter than a stock converter. All right, now that I've let that converter beat up on me way longer than I'm ever going to admit to you guys, I can drag this thing up here and get it bolted to the engine. Ooh, slippery. You want to make sure that your transmission will mate all the way up to the block without any problems. You don't really want to use the bolts to pull it up. I am going to be using these Moroso solid engine mounts. They came in a box I got for $10 at a swap meet about 15 years ago. So first thing you need to do is you need to make sure they're going to fit the frame stands that you have. Now, if you have aftermarket frame stands, you definitely need to check. See, because these are factory frame stands, but it really doesn't want to fit on there. And when you're trying to set an engine down in the car, yeah, it's going to have some weight on it, so it'll probably go down a little easier. So, but you don't want to have to beat on it and do all that. So you want to make sure that they're going to fit. Get the other one. That one fits fine on both sides. This one's a little tight. So this one, I'm going to have to figure out a way to adjust it. Now I'm going to put my cooler line adapters on. And if you're working on these transmissions, these are a tapered pipe thread, I think. They're not a straight pipe thread. You have a special type of thread to go in there. So don't just try to screw a regular pipe thread in there, or you're going to have a real problem. It won't seal. That's when they come with copper washers, so that you can seal them. I've seen people try to put regular AN fittings in here and end up with a cracked transmission case, or cracked fitting right there. That's about the right torque. Alright, I've got my Right Stuff detailing transmission cooler lines from a stock Nova 400, and I'm not going to use a stock radiator or cooler, but this will get my lines, this will get my cooler lines up to the front, and it's something that I know is durable. It's already shaped right, and I don't have to deal with AN fittings, AN hose, and it's only like 50 bucks for this. So it's a lot cheaper than trying to run AN fittings. The headers I'm using are really old Hedman Hustler headers. They're 1 3/4 primaries. They've been sitting around rusting for a long time. I've actually got two sets of these. Different numbers, and I can't find the other number, but this is definitely Hedman. These have been beat up to fit a power steering box. And I sandblasted them, hit them with some VHT 1000-degree paint, and should be good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and set this down in here, kind of like so, and I will pull it up into where it needs to go. Sometimes you can just take them and tie strap them out of the way, but I'll probably just kind of leave it sitting here and then fight with it while I'm putting the engine in. Alright, I'll pick up some new bolts tomorrow. Those are factory style bolts. Okay, so the engine transmission are finally in the car. I'm pretty stoked about it. The transmission cross member is just a stock style Turbo 400 cross member. I had to re-drill it to move the transmission over back to the center because the factory ones are offset to the passenger side 1 inch to make room for the big block in the bay. But running a small block with it, so I had to re-drill it. No big deal. Now I I'll be doing another video on the fuel system. It'll be the fuel pump, all the fuel lines, carburetor, regulator, that whole deal, the fuel tank, 100% of the fuel system. And then it'll also include all the cooling system, because I'm going to have the radiator support mounted, the fenders, water pump, all that stuff is going to be there. And we'll do the wiring video after that, which will be, I know I started this video with some wiring, but really it was just laying it out to get ready for the engine and transmission so I can get my firewall ready. I'm going to have a standalone video just for wiring. It'll have the headlights and tail lights and some of the interior stuff, but the entire engine. After that, we can crank it up. So looking forward to that. This thing's going to sound pretty good. Hopefully it'll run like hell too. Anyway, guys, subscribe while you're here. Leave me a like, comment, and watch some other videos. And see you guys next time. Thanks.